Good morning from Boston Lodge. You may be forgiven for thinking that there hasn't been any buildings developments here, and that could not be further from the truth. We continue to make progress on new buildings. For several years you had updates on the National Lottery Heritage Fund NLHF buildings development from Edwina Bell. Well, we've still been busy following the end of the project, and we're going to start just to show you this one quickly. This is the new oil store that goes on the side of the small loco shed here that you might have seen, and that you've hopefully been round on one of our guided tours at Boston Lodge. So we'll go and have a look inside. So as you can see, the building's in use. We've just got some sand from it, and we can show you what's going on inside. Okay, not the most exciting building update you're going to see this year, but still, this really matters for the crews here, for the staff here. To be able to have all the oils in one place is incredibly important. We've also got some other bits at the back. So the bits here are temporary. This is a legacy from the previous arrangement. But we've now got our main bulk oils in big containers, IBCs. It's much cheaper to buy it that way, and it's very easy now for the crews to dispense these oils and get to them easily. Various stores of oils. We've got better racks coming for those, all sorts of bits of oil. And like I said, we've got some other bits like water treatment, sand, salt for our other water softener plants, all stored in the dry in a nice environment. As a bit of a bonus, we've put a mezzanine in here because we just about had the head height for that, so further storage up here, and you can see there again the rest of the building from above, and lots of light coming in through the open doors and out to the yard so you can see what's going on. Another new building, or another renovated building, conserved building, Plasmart here in the top yard at Boston Lodge. This sat outside the lottery project, but through funding from the Ffestiniog Railway Society, we've been able to get it up to a really good standard. So again, we'll go and look inside because this is going to become a locker room for volunteers and maybe for staff. We wanted to show you the beautiful kind of features in here before we fill it with more stuff. So we'll go and have a look. So beautiful old company building, once again conserved, preserved to the highest standards using original materials. You've got a limecrete floor, lots of lime plaster used, so original techniques to make sure the building is breathable and survives well into the future. Again, we just wanted to show you some of this while we have the opportunity. So the door there, the front door, that is original. This original lock still works, but we've augmented it with standard lock because there was only one huge key for that beautiful old lock. But we've got a fantastic fireplace there, nice and snug, with an original fender there made of old rail. Beautiful new window, but we've got the original shutters which are going to go back in. And then the big screen here is basically a windbreak that used to be in this building, was retained when we emptied the building out. It's been renovated, repainted, and that will go back in this position here. So still some work to do. The electricians are in here this week fitting the lighting, power, and a small amount of heating. And again, in the next couple of months, we'll be bringing this into use. Yet another really useful building at Boston Lodge. Welcome to a new, very light and airy new erecting shop, and now it's the new erecting shop at Boston Lodge. This is another project led by Ian Hartill, another beefy building. The cladding on this was very, very old, and a long-standing project has been to make improvements to that. So that happened over this summer, recently completed. Now it's a much warmer and, crucially, as you can see, a much lighter space. So we're hoping for improvements to our energy bills from this, obviously. And in terms of working environment, it's a far cry from what it was as quite a dark space before. So funding for this from the Ffestiniog and Welsh Highland Railways Trust. Thank you very much to them for this massive improvement. I think the next building that's going to be tackled in this area is the old erecting shop, which is more of a heritage building project. So thanks again to the funders and all the people that have been involved in project managing and completing this building. And I should just say a big thanks to the staff here at Boston Lodge, because the disruption on this one was quite significant. But what a result. Thank you very much. Quick word on facilities, people facilities, both for paid staff and for volunteers, and especially for large volunteer groups. We're getting a lot of those at the moment. An immense amount of work's already happened as part of this winter's programme. To have really good groups, you need really good facilities, obviously. We've proven that at Boston Lodge with the growth in volunteering and more people coming since we've had really good facilities here. At Glanapputh, the mess and toilet and washing facilities were inadequate, to say the least. We now, thanks to funding from the Ffestiniog Railway Society, totally renewed those and got a brand new facility there for crews who are there on a daily basis to run the trains, and volunteer working parties like the Alco group who are up there working. We're now focusing on some improvements to Dinas as part of the developments there. Fixed facilities are all well and good, but of course when we're out on the line we need moving mess facilities. We've got several mess vehicles, and this is the latest to be, well, to start being renovated. So this is 1001, the Welsh Highland mess vehicle. It's in here for some mechanical work from the staff, but it's going to head back when that's complete, head back to Dinas, and volunteers are going to be kitting that out. So yet another fantastic both staff and volunteer project, but one that will really, really aid volunteering, and especially those large groups that we need so much to keep on top of the ever important maintenance. So thank you to everyone who's been involved in this. I should just say that the funding to finish and to enable the completion of the small loco shed store came from the Ffestiniog and Welsh Highland Railways Trust, and a big portion of that was from Ffestiniog Travel, our sister travel company. So if you're booking holidays through them, the profits from that will be directly, as they always are, contributing to fantastic capital projects and improvements to your favourite railway. Thank you very much.
Right, this is the boiler and the boiler cradle from the Merddin Emrys. It's in here in many pieces, as you see, because it's due a 10-year boiler exam. So at a 10-year boiler exam we have to reveal all the surfaces of the boiler, take all the tubes out, and the boiler inspector will come in and give it a very thorough exam. So a bit of history of this boiler. It was built in 1968 by Hunslets in Leeds. It was one of a pair. So this one went into service in the Merddin Emrys in 1970. And the other boiler, which was identical, was used in the construction of the Earl of Merioneth. So this boiler was different to the earlier Fairlie boilers. It was wider to start with, and if you look here, you see the cradle frame has a bolted on bit that goes down the side of the fireboxes, and this was done because the boiler, the firebox outer was wider at this point. Now I don't know why that was done, but anyway, it was so it's wider here than the original boilers, and it's longer as well. So the Merddin Emrys became longer, and the Earl of Merioneth was built longer too. Anyway, the boiler ran through the 1970s. It was converted to oil firing. Then in the 1980s, the locomotive got rebuilt to have a more traditional form, and I think it went back into service in 1988. But then there was some problems started to occur in this area here. So it started to, cracks appeared and eventually broke through to the surface. So that obviously wasn't good. So they were repaired by welding locally here. But the problems persisted, and we realised eventually that the problem was a design one. So this area here wasn't well supported, and so under pressure the boiler would expand at the top, because this area was very flexible, and this area here was not flexible because it was tied together tightly with palm stays to the inner fireboxes. So the solution in the end was to add these stays, which go from here to the same place on this end. So there's 4 of those stays running across the fireboxes, and there's also 2 stays that go from the brackets that are here or here, I can't remember. Anyway, there's 2 long stays that run almost the complete length of the boiler, and then they're tied also to the tube plates. So that staying has stopped the problem occurring. So these stays were added at Israel Newtons when Israel Newtons were in Bradford in the late 90s, early 2000s. and they also replaced these areas of throat plate. So anyway, that's a good repair, and that's worked well in the subsequent years. Another problem we had more recently was we had the domes were held with rivets originally, and we had some cracking on the rivets. So the rivets have been replaced by these bolts, and that's worked very successfully. We've had no more problems with them. More recently, 2 years ago, we had some problems with the inner fireboxes, cracked and leaking. So some large areas, patches were put into the inner fireboxes, all the way around. The bottom area was replaced. So all these rivets were renewed, and at various times other stays have been replaced. Earlier the fire holes were replaced with welded ones to replace the originally smaller riveted in fire hole rings. So that's a brief history of the boiler. Anyway, come to this tenure exam. As I said, we need to reveal all the surfaces of the boiler. So the boiler's got to be lifted out of its cradle frame. So it'll be lifted up so that we can inspect the areas behind the cradle frame and the throat plates behind this bit of frame here. So we think there may be some problems with this outer plate down here and down here, all the way around the fireboxes. So the worst case scenario, we might have to cut, I don't know, maybe here, down here, around there, all the way around the outer fireboxes, and replace the plate. So, but we're not sure yet. So part of the process is, well, the next part of the process, once the boiler's out of the frames, is to get in a non-destructive testing company, and they should be coming next week, and they'll be tasked with thickness testing all over the boiler, inner fireboxes, outer casings, barrel, tube plates, so that they'll be able to tell us exactly how thick the material is, because obviously it's corroding all the time slightly. So we'll know where the plate's wasted, and also they'll be looking for cracking. So say this bit of plate just here between these stays, we'll polish that up so that it's a nice shiny steel surface, and they'll be able to, using ultrasonic probes, look through the steel and hopefully not find any cracks. So a crack would show up as a very small dimension compared to the full thickness of the plate. So this plate's probably 10-12 millimeters thick, something like that. So if they get a reading that's 6 or 5 millimeters, then they'll know there's a crack there, or it's heavily wasted, grooved. So anyway, so they'll go all over the boiler, and we'll get their report, and we'll send that to the boiler inspector, and then the boiler inspector will come in and he'll have a good look around the boiler, and then we'll have a discussion about what repairs we need to do. As I say, we might need to be cutting some of the outer firebox away. We don't think there are any other problems. There'll probably need to be some stays replaced. There might be some building up to do on the tube plates. So what's going on at the moment is that the tubes are all being taken out. Right, so as you can see, these are the superheater flues. The bottom's been gas cut out of there, and the tubes have all been cut through. So that allows these tube ends to be collapsed and come away from the tube plate, and that will allow the tubes to be knocked out. So all looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but this is an important stage of getting the tubes out. So the tubes have to come out every 10 years. The superheater flues can stay in for 20 years because they're thicker walled. They're always, well, they'll always last 20 years, no problem. This is quite a labour-intensive job. You see, cutting all the tube ends, collapsing the ends. So if we have a look inside the firebox, Jake is cutting the tube ends away and the weld away so that the tube can come out. So the tubes have been seal welded in this end. So they've been expanded and then welded around, basically to stop them leaking. So this tube cutter does a very good job of slicing away the metal that's sticking out. And once that's done, as you can see with some of the tubes below where he's working at the moment, you end up with a flat surface, and you can see the join where just the tube is. So once that's done, hopefully the tubes will be able to be knocked out. So they've got a big long puller bar and like a slide hammer that will, or use the thread on the bar to basically wrestle the tubes out, having cut them at the other end as well. So doing it this way is much nicer than angle grinding the tube ends and welds away, which was the way we used to do it. So this is much neater and makes less dust and noise. This weld here is to repair a crack that appeared a few years ago. So it had cracked right through the plate. So we ground through and welded it up. It's happened just above the foundation ring, and that's the usual place where grooving and cracking can occur, both on the outer wrapper and on the inner firebox. So subsequent to this, the weld has been welded on the other side as well, because we cut a patch out of the inner firebox along here and all the way round the throat plates and joining up with some previous repairs. But as I say, this area of the outer wrapper is now, well, we know it's old, we know that bit cracked through. We might need to do some more work if there's cracking coming from the stays. So it's a fairly common repair on loco boilers to have to cut off lower parts of firebox wrappers. We expect that these upper parts should be good, and will go again. So although cutting some areas off might seem like a lot of work, it's a lot less work than replacing the whole boiler, as you can imagine. So there's a fair bit of unknown in the job, how much we might have to cut off, which bits we might have to repair, but we're reasonably optimistic that the boiler will be repaired sometime next year, I think is the best estimate we can come up with at the moment. So the loco could be back in traffic for next season, at some point next season, because the power bogies are good, they need some minor work. The tanks we're looking at the moment, they might need some work, but generally the rest of the locomotive is pretty good. So we're not expecting the loco to be out of traffic for years. We're hopeful it'll be back next season at some point.